He does not conceal the horror of war. Instead, he always portrays soldiers fighting in this war as human beings. His photographs clearly differentiate from reporting on crises in a voyeuristic way. Instead, the victims are given a face. Touching, upsetting, but still unobtrusive. Those who feel numb to death tolls in the news or to floods of horrific images in the media may get touched by this kind of portraits and may start to take a moment and think. He tells the stories of his protagonists on boards with black and white photographs and text on them. Terror is immediately personified. All that is abstract dissolves. The collective tragedies are given personal faces. You're about to meet someone who not only has a brave heart but is willing to risk it in an attempt to speak for those voiceless in a way that makes his photography uniquely humble and true. Tilmeyer knows what manhood is by telling the stories of Ukrainian women during those terrible twists of war. Black and white works, printed on a layer of a thin plastic, are glued at the windows of the German embassy in Kyiv. For a passerby, it's like involuntarily looking into a window that has been shattered by this war, and when they do, what they most unexpectedly find there is life.
Well, that has a long story actually. In 2007, I made an exhibition and a book about concentration camp survivors in Lviv. And somehow I got stuck, so now I have my own projects there which I support. And the people of Ukraine, they were always supporting me in such a heart-touching way. This is how I fell in love with this country. And I get closer and closer. And then after the Revolution of Dignity, I was really, for me it was something special how people stand up for freedom in Ukraine. And I love freedom as well. So that's my country. I'm not afraid. So first of all, when I compare my danger to those people I meet in the field, I meet in the battle zone, it's peanuts. And two of very good friends of mine, they're fighting now at the front line, and I would be ashamed if I would not do this little thing I'm doing now. So it's for me an honor to help Ukraine with my work. So my first project was 2007. Since 2017, I'm going to Donbass to document the war as a long-term project. And since the invasion started, the full-scale invasion, I'm in Ukraine half of the month. So 2 weeks Germany, 2 weeks Ukraine. So it's not only tragedy, of course, it's a lot of strength as well. And I'm really proud that I can have, for the first picture now, Elena, who is a friend of mine. And I know her for many, many, many years. And she and her husband living in Odessa, and they always wanted to have a baby. It never worked out. And then it happened when the invasion started. So first winter invasion, she gave birth to a boy. And it was this time of energy cuts, of attacking and this energy infrastructure. She gave birth, and 4 or 5 hours later, she was already in the bunker. That was the first day with her baby. So I went at Christmas to the front line to document or to show the life of a family father with a small boy, first grader, and returned to the front line. Even he was not really rehabilitated after he got wounded on his arm before, but there were so few soldiers in his unit, so they needed him actually. He wanted to go back to his comrades. And of course he was very patriotic, but of course I was interested what is his wife saying about this issue? What is she saying about that the father of a son is always out her husband? So, and that's an honor for me. He was phoning his wife with Starlink, and she agreed that I can visit them in Kyiv. So we went to Kyiv to see her and her son. And she said she's fully behind her husband, but she said there was like a Christmas party for this first grader class from her son. And then she realized there was 29 young men standing there, and her husband is the only one at the front line. And she said for her, that was not tolerable. It was really hurting her. And this I also realized when I made this story. This photo shows a teacher from Kharkiv. And actually, She's from the part of the city, Saltivka, which got bombed most. So when I was there by chance, because I went to one of these bunker schools in Kharkiv, and they have a kind of shifts. So it's not that it's available all the time for the school classes. So they have like 2 days it's for this school, and the next 2 days for another one. So they were from Saltivka, and she was really like a hero for me. Huh? She stayed in her city, and she never give up, even in this really bad situation you had in Kharkiv. I was there too in April 22 when it was with the Russians in front of the gates, getting artillery, getting even mortar because it was so close. And she stayed, and now she's giving these children a future. And these children, they were so brave. Sometimes I think our German children could learn a little bit from them. So how I get to the people, sometimes I really know them. So in my hand I have my second book about after the invasion. The first one, it was like a family a book because there were so many people inside I really know personally. And Anita, the lady behind me, she has some Cuban roots. As you see, her father was Cuban, but she's 150% Ukrainian. So even in 2014, when the war started, she became a volunteer from Kharkiv as a paramedic, and after they won and the full-scale invasion started, she joined again the army. And she is a friend of one of my best friends. So this is how I know about her. And I met her for the first time for an interview when she was herself wounded and in a hospital in Kharkiv. And she was so traumatized that she really needs sometimes a minute or two just to build one sentence. And at the end of the interview, I told her, okay, in 3 months, we will see us at the front line. But it was really out of politeness, to be honest, from my side. I never thought she would return back in service. But she did, and this photo was 3 months later. But in her eyes, you can see the war. You can see how it hurt her soul and what she went through. And I really hope, because she loves dancing so much, that one day we have peace again, and Kharkiv, which is really a cool place, is a place now for dancing again. This photo shows a doctor in Kupiansk. And for me, it's like these daily life heroes who really impress me most, to be honest. And Kupiansk, at the time when we made the interview with her, so her own hospital was bombed. They had been in a building which was not damaged, but the main part was really heavily damaged. You hear the incomings around, and it was really depressive. Also depressive for these doctors who stayed behind, just to serve those people who decided not to go out of this hellish place, I must say. And there are so many like her, so many doctors and medical staff who are serving now close to the front line. And I think it's an honor for me to give them a space here, and the German embassy gives them a space. So that's something which makes me also really happy. So for me, I'm wondering sometimes myself how close Ukrainian people let me be part of their life. Svetlana, for example, I made an interview, and she's the widow of a soldier killed in action. And she is from a village close to the border, to the Russian border, Luhansk Oblast. So her village was invaded by day one of the full-scale invasion. And she went through hell, actually. So she told me, because her husband, he was fighting somewhere else, because he was a member of the armed forces. That's why they took her 3 times a week, and she said they did everything with me except raping. And she was like the flower woman of her village, so everybody knew her. Everybody who gets married, everybody who has some flowers for his girlfriend or his wife, they all went to her place. So she had a good reputation. But even so, there were some neighbors who smacked her up just to have a good reputation with the Russian invaders. It's such a shame for me. And then she got one day the call that by the commander of her husband, that her husband got killed. And somehow the Russians knew about it. Maybe they were checking her phone line. And on the next day, a very young soldier, a Russian soldier came, like 18, 19, she said. And he was the only one who said condolences. And he started to cry. He was not able to arrest her and bring her out for this usual thing she has to go through. So the mother, 2 soldiers came in and they took her, and then it happened what happened all the time. But for me it was a quite touching story, and I'm really wondering what this Russian soldier thinking about seeing all the crimes his army is doing to the Ukrainian people. Sometimes when you're a photographer and journalist and you do an interview, you reach your own limits. And this was here with Yelena, and Yelena is living in a village close to Kupiansk. And I came to a village when it was just liberated in this offensive in early autumn 22. So there were still dead Russian soldiers at the edge of the road, and the houses, some of them were still smoking from the burn. So it was less than 24 hours when the village got liberated. And I met Yelena in front of her house, and she buried her own son there. So the story was Yelena and her son decided not to leave when the Russians approaching her village. It was a big mistake, and after fighting gets closer and closer, there was a grenade coming right in the garden of the house. So of course then they decided to leave, and her son, he must have been a really brave person. So he said, "Mom, I will go and check who's still in the village. Maybe there's some people left, and I will evacuate them." So he left with his white transporter, and after hours, he did not return after days. So the mother was waiting, and then the fighting gets closer and closer, so she had to go. And she ran through a forest to Kupiansk. And in Kupiansk, neighbors told her that most obviously her son is dead because this transporter got shelled by the Russians. So immediately, of course, she's a mother, she wanted to return to get the dead body of her son. So when she reached this car of her son, which was only 500 meters away, by the way, from her house, she got shelled by Russian snipers. So again, she had to return to Kupiansk and to wait until this village was finally liberated. But when I made this interview, in the beginning, I didn't realize that everything happened less than 24 hours. And she was like talking to me like really in a very emotional way. But it was not because she did not love her son, but I think if she would have admitted to her what happened, she would have gone crazy. So she was just functioning to arrange that her son get a grave, because she was for so many weeks in this dead body was in this car, so she wanted to have him buried at once. And also the cemetery, of course, there was no service working, and maybe it was also mined, so she had no chance to find something in the cemetery for him. And so even so she did not speak with emotions to me, I think it must have been such a painful thing for her to give me this interview. And this is an honor actually, and it's a present I get from the people of Ukraine, that they give me their stories, and they give it to me because I think it's important for them that I tell about this injustice which is happening here, and that's my mission I have to do.
Till's mission is impossible. It is doomed. To force people to feel the pain of others without them actually being in pain. To make them hear the silent cry of someone's sorrow, loss and grief without them actually losing someone dear. What Till Meyer is craving in his work is not only to stop the current of time, but to reverse it. So those Ukrainians who trusted most intimate moments of grief with him could have avoided that bitter fate. Impossible indeed. There simply is no way. It is literally incredible. Unless submerged by his black and white works into the realm of awe and sorrow of this war that deep that you struggle to breathe in, you all of a sudden feel an impossible glimpse of hope for better, sparked by Till Meyer's photography. He leads your way through war as he knows what he is doing. He has been here before. And Today he also leads our way to show us a place in Kyiv that is special to him. While we walk the center of Kyiv, the Maidan Square, Till tells me stories. I'm not saying a word. I don't have anything worth to be said aloud. I thought I'd know more about this war than Till Maya does. I see photos here of my fellow Latvians, here at Maidan turned into flags, symbols of freedom. I remember my colleagues' names, journalists, murdered and wounded here in Ukraine or in Russian captivity. I went to the front lines many times with my camera in my hands. When Till sees the emblems of the brigades he visited, he hopes that all these brave men and women he knows personally are still alive. Till says it hurts him to see this place, a cemetery in the heart of the city, growing literally every time he passes by. He knows them, soldiers who are not alive anymore. He knows George, who got wounded in a combat that Till was covering in one of his stories. George promised they would meet for a beer when Till visited him in hospital. It never happened. George was killed in action later. He knows it all, and he always says, I know these guys, I know this man, I know this woman. Always a present tense, not I knew them. That is how I can tell it is not over for him.
So I know Kyiv for many, many years, and step by step it really takes its place in my heart. I love this city with this river. It's full of energy. Something is moving on even now in this war times. It's an amazing city for me. And last year I was exploring Kyiv with a little Opel Karl. So I know a lot of roads now, which are not so much on tourist places before the invasion. And yes, I fell in love with the city. It's my second home now. So Kyiv for me now, when I'm coming back from Donbass, of course it's kind of holiday, because you have restaurants here, you can go out until the curfew at least. So you have a normal life in a really thrilling and beautiful city. But of course, it's different when you have children who get afraid, for example, when night you have alarm, when drones are coming, when you can hear the loud explosions of the air defense. For them, it's not a holiday. It's some traumatizing nights they have to go through. And I really hope for this day when Kyiv become one of these most important capitals of Europe.
As we say our goodbyes for now, I think to myself, those stories of Ukrainian suffering, stories of those gone, they still live inside Till Maya, a photographer from Germany living his best life here in Ukraine together with Ukrainians, sharing their hopes and fears, and maybe the stories will never let him go and will be haunting Till Maya forever, as maybe it is the only way for the author.